Okay, so I'm gonna say this right quick. With the pendulum link summon format, I think link summoning is not gonna kill pendulums. Not only will it not kill pendulums, I think pendulums might have a strong. They might be stronger in link format than other decks are by a slight advantage. That they can still reborn at least one monster every turn. And you think of that right now, decks don't really have that where they just naturally reborn a monster just by their natural function without having to play some specific additional spell card or something like that. That, like they still have that advantage of being able to, pop their scales become resource, set new scales, pendulum summon back one of those. That one free summon, that one, it could be used for a link monster, and they normal summon something else, special summon, play another card, special summon. I mean, normal summon and search, all this search power that pendulum decks tend to have, and then be able to pendulum summon a couple of cards, and then link, including the one that's in the extra deck, link all that shit out, and then have, resource to pendulum summon out the next turn for their combinations. Like, it just doesn't seem, you know, smart. And it's not saying anybody is not, not smart, but it doesn't seem like people are actually thinking when they say that this is gonna die. Because like literally, the only thing anybody can say is, "Oh, they lose the ability to pendulum summon five," and that's what pendulums are about. And it makes me question, like, okay, do you know how to play pendulums? Do you know how to play through bad games? Do you know how to play through games where you got like back row? Do you know how to kind of hold back? Because you don't just want to pendulum summon five unless you got an open field and no back row. You don't want to just put all of your resources on the board all the time. It's kind of pendulums are kind of a resource management, you know. And so when I played like pendulums, when I came, actually only been playing this game for about 2 years. When I came into the game was when pendulums came, and I learned how to play it before everyone in my locals. Nobody wanted to play, and what I was trying to learn the mechanic, seems like most Yugi players and people on their channel just didn't like the pendulum mechanic yet. And Cleese was like the only good thing, and Clee players were the only like pendulum deck, the only people that liked the pendulum mechanic, and a lot of people hated fucking Cleese and didn't want to play it. So it's like there's still a lot of people that just don't get don't get the pendulum mechanic. Like they jumped on board a year late with all these new pendulum decks and don't really realize that sometimes you don't want to pendulum summon everything out anyways. Especially in a back row heavy format, when everybody gets slowed down, back row is gonna probably be a bigger thing. I'm not gonna want to pendulum summon five anyways. I'm gonna want to play it a little bit safer. So being restricted to that is just kind of like, whatever. I wouldn't have pendulum summon five in a format where people slow down and there's like 4 or 5 cards. Any of those could be a solemn warning or a strike. I'm not trying to lose, my monsters summoning five out. Just is what it is. And then if you play pendulums for a while, you do realize that sometimes first turn you go into exceed, or you go into exceed plays within the first couple turns, and you kind of lose materials to the graveyard anyways. So when you do that, you actually lose material that you would have pendulum summoned five. So when you've been playing pendulums for a long time, you realize pendulum summon five for game doesn't happen as often as you think. It just really doesn't. And it's not feasible. It's doable. It's just not an ideal plan. Unless you've wiped your opponent's board, there's no back row. In a format right now where there's less and less, spells and traps being played, or less back row being played, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, I only got to pop 1 or 2 back row, and then I could pendulum summon, 4 or 5. But a lot of times I still don't end up doing that. So it's not really a loss for a pendulum player that's been playing a while. Not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! A while, but playing with pendulums for long enough to kind of understand how to manage your resource and not end up losing to try and go for it all at once. You're just gonna have to play smarter. And the thing is, I feel like link summoning is a good thing for me being a pro pendulum player. Like I've always loved the mechanic. There was one thing that I always said. Konami is eventually going to nerf the mechanic. I don't think they're going to nerf the summoning from the hand. I think they're going to find some way to slow down being able to summon five back, because that's the biggest complaint players have. But I understand that. If you just wiped my board, if you got rid of everything, and I'm just kind of playing off my pendulum monsters, which really, I don't think really any deck does that much except for like Magic Specters and Cliff Forts. Most of the other ones, they tend to kind of go into Xseeds and synchros and different plays and don't really just pendulum summon 5 back like that. But either way, if you just got over their pendulum, their Xseeds and their synchros and their fusions, and they've got a whole bunch of stuff in their extra deck, and you're like, I just exhausted all means, and they pendulum summon 5 and swing for game, or, you know what I mean, or beat over all of your monsters, and it's pretty much like auto win for them, I think that it's kind of fair that link summoning slows us down, and it allows us to summon like 1 or 2 depending on the link monster we have, or just using that 1 extra deck slot. I think that's actually very fair, and it's gonna be still about as dangerous as a graveyard deck. Now, I've been playing graveyard decks since Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. For me, I used to always find a way to abuse the graveyard mechanic. Every card game I do that I play, if there's some kind of revival spell, I'm gonna abuse the graveyard a little bit. I'm going to play every kind of revive, good card, bad card, old card. As long as it's a legal card, I'm going to find a way to abuse it. Now, you got cards, you got decks like Lightsworn and Burning Abyss and stuff like that that can actually just get summons from stuff going to the grave, and that can continue to actually recur some of these things. Zombie decks where you can Mizuki and banish stuff, or you can shuffle back your Mizukis with Burial, what is it? I forget the burial card. I cannot think of it at the moment. But anyways, you have a lot of different strategies where you can just keep getting shit from the extra deck, but usually you only get 1 or 2 at a time, unless you got a whole bunch of Phantom Knight spell and trap cards, or a whole bunch of Paleozoics, or a whole bunch of, you know, Mizukis in the grave at that one time, and a Master Zombie on the field, or whatever the case, and some spell cards. You're not getting that many back in a turn. Onesies, twosies, and then you exceed and you go, or synchro and go into something else. And it just keeps letting you reuse your resource, and it's grindy. So really what's about to happen to pendulums is they're just going to be a bit grindier. And they're still going to be like a Burning Abyss. They're still going to be like a, you know, Lightsworn, where you can still keep getting these resources back, because two scales, a high scale and a low scale, is a freaking Mizuki once per turn for a pendulum monster. So I'm saying this, those of you that think pendulums are going to be dead, you need to sit down and analyze it just a little bit longer. Think a little bit longer, and don't sell your pendulum stuff. I'm saving some of you guys some money because you're probably burning it. Just hopefully you didn't burn your stuff. But those of you that are like, oh, when Link Summon format comes out, I'm burning all my shit. Please do not burn your cards. Do not trade them. Do not rage and get pissed off about it. Because I've seen people when Pepe got hit flipping all their shit and saying the deck is dead. I felt that pain because it actually inadvertently hit my Magician deck, and I literally poured everything out on my bed and just kind of was like, and I made some bullshit ass decks, and then I eventually found a way to recover and make the deck playable again. Point being, the decks will still be playable, just like any ban list makes you feel like your deck is dead. If you've been playing those decks for a while, you've been playing those strategies for a while, you know that there's backup cards to play. Pendulum players, you know there's that, you know, Pot of Riches, that, you know, Pendulum Call, you know, there's just ways to pull shit off. Decks are not dead. Pendulum decks are just not going to be dead. If anything, they may still have the advantage due to the fact that they still can get 1 free card per turn. They can reborn 1 monster per turn. Alright, well, this is Shinobi Slick. Y'all have a good night.